analytically, this is the biggest movement to the suburbs from metropolitan areas since the 60s. I think that urban real estate's in real trouble. I really do.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the VIP Financial Ed channel. It's your cash flow coach, Matthew, here with another really important video to discuss with you. We recently launched a video about timing the real estate market and exactly how we're using the coronavirus to do that. I'm going to link that in the description below. Make sure you check that one out. And here's the bottom line I wanted to share with you guys today. One of the easiest ways that I make money is to pay close attention to really obvious trends. And then I get my money in ahead of the trend. Now, obviously, it's easy to see that the pandemic is exposing a lot of different trends right now. There's a trend, for instance, of unemployment and income volatility. I see a trend that people are feeling perhaps trapped or scared. There's immense potential in observing human behavior, and with some fairly obvious indicators, you can predict and your odds of success will become really, really quite high. Now, by the end of the video, I promise to discuss a time-tested trend with you that is being used to create an almost bulletproof way of making money right now. This is a way to avoid uncertainty, to diversify your income streams, and to create freedom to live your life as you please. This is something I've had the blessing to do in my life. We're now living and traveling for $0, and I want that very same life and lifestyle for you. To make my point, what I want to do is just play a quick game with you. In the comments section below, go ahead and type out either A or B after I read the businesses in each category. So let's go ahead and play. Let's say I gave you $20,000 that you had to invest, okay? So you couldn't lose because it's not your money to begin with, but if your investment grows, you get to keep everything. Would you be more likely to invest $20,000 in a business from category A or category B? Category A businesses, let's go with movie theaters, commercial real estate like offices, retail space, or gyms. How about downtown condos? Category B, let's go with online entrepreneurship, streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. How about rural properties near retreat areas? Couple more RV manufacturers or parks. In the comments below, let us know, would you be more likely to invest $20,000 in a business from category A or category B? Now, before we deep dive into the trend that I was talking about that can make you a lot of money, drop a thumbs up if you guys feel like you're able to see trends more easily right now because of COVID, or put a thumbs down if you feel like it's still a challenge for you to identify various directions that we seem to be moving as a society and as a culture. I'm curious to know, thumbs up if you think it's become easier to see trends, thumbs down if you think it's as difficult or even more difficult to see trends now. So most of the pandemic, we all agree, has been absolutely horrible. There's so many layers of that too. Obviously, our prayers are always with the loved ones of people who have lost their lives. Obviously, the economy has been completely dismantled. We have people rioting in the streets. This is a really ugly time in so many ways. However, there have always been some valuable silver linings. And one of the biggest benefits of the quarantine is that we can see some trends right now, current trends, a lot more easily. And one specific trend that the crisis has put a lot of attention on is the concept that a mass exodus, a mass migration has already started. There's always going to be people out there who prefer the cities and the heavily populated areas. There's no question about that. But many people have started to look towards areas that are less densely populated. People are reconsidering where and how they prefer to live. Suburbs and land, having more space suddenly seems really enticing to a lot of people, myself included. Personally, I can't even count how many times Kellyanne and I have commented on how grateful we are that we decided to move out of the city in January and into a rural town. We've even moved into an RV temporarily. I mean, it could be for years because we want to explore and feel completely mobile. And we feel really, really lucky to have avoided that congestion and the other many downsides that we would have had to endure had we been in the city during this crisis. In fact, on our recent RV trip that we just returned back from, we became friends with a couple from Seattle. It's the third most expensive city in the world, or in the country rather. And yet, you know, there's militarized police or federal agents that are beating up protesters and people rioting. And they just could not wait to move away from Seattle. They're from Seattle, and we had a lengthy conversation about how much they were appreciating being out on the road in an RV as well. Here's the thing, guys. Because of my decision to move away from the city after living there for 4.5 years, we have already made a considerable amount of money. We managed to get ahead of that trend, and we can easily see where there is a lot more money to be made. We've already started considering ways of generating additional 7 figures yearly because of the obvious trend that's before us. So I want to discuss that with you because I think that it will help you strategize better, and I'll even leave you with a phenomenal income stream by the end. So again, make sure you stick around for the entire video. So I recently came across this topic through a very interesting article in Politico in mid-May. It's called How Coronavirus Could Make People Move. The pandemic isn't just going to change how we live, it's going to dictate where we live too. It's written by Kana and Prasada. It starts by saying that the coronavirus is upending our jobs, it's canceling our pastimes, and it's messing with our social lives. Some of these effects might linger for months, even years, but the pandemic isn't simply likely to change how we live, could also alter where we live. As we contemplate all the ways that COVID-19 could change the world, big and small, we should consider that the pandemic's combined effect on public health, the economy, and social behavior may cause fundamental shifts in our human geography. Why choose to stay in a crowded city where body bags pile high during the worst parts of the pandemic? Why, especially when COVID-19 has shown many employers that remote work is a serious possibility. So I was recently talking about this with a close friend of mine, Christian Baker, who owns 100 properties, actually been on the channel sharing his success with our coaching. And he mentioned to be sure to check out Jason Hartman's channel, who's talked a lot about this mass exodus on his channel. So definitely see, because I think he's got some really good points to share on this too. So Jason Hartman is a channel here on YouTube that you may want to look into. But today I want to bring in Michael Mathe. He's the founder of Little Pink Houses. He's a prominent real estate expert. And I want to open a dialogue about this for a few minutes, and I want to discuss how people can take advantage of this really unique time in history. Welcome back, as always, Michael, to the channel.
Thanks for having me, Matthew. Great to be here, as always.
All right, so before we get ahead of ourselves, I do want to point out Michael is a sponsor. He's a close friend of not only the channel, but me. He has worked with hundreds of audience members here from the VIP Financial Ed channel, and he's helped person after person safely invest in real estate using a proprietary method. And we'll get into that just briefly here during this conversation. So Michael, what say you about this trend? How far off base are we in identifying that people's desire to live in less congested areas seems to continually be growing right now, maybe at a faster pace than ever? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I'm out there right now doing as much research as I can. I always do. Just like you, I want to stay ahead of the trends. That's how you make the money. You know, if you're the last man on the deal team finding out about these trends months from now, obviously you're not going to get your money in at the right time. So I'm actively doing my research. There's tons of data out there right now. You know, I've read a recent article on MSNBC, and it was talking about year over year from June 2019 to June 2020 in New York City, there's 4% of all available apartments are open for lease right now, which is approximately 10,000, which is an 85% increase year over year from June 2019 to June 2020.
Wow.
There's lots of data out there. 34,000 individuals have left Los Angeles County this year already. So the numbers are out there. You know, big cities like, big expensive cities, New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, you mentioned Seattle, Chicago. There's major trending for those individuals right now for a number of reasons, which I'll dive into, to move into cities like Atlanta or Nashville or Austin or Phoenix, Tucson, Raleigh, Columbus, Ohio, are cities where we're seeing a spike in growth based on folks that are leaving these major metropolises and not necessarily looking for a small, farm town, but something a little maybe less substantial. Another fact about New York City is in a 1 square mile in New York City, there are 28,000 inhabitants. So you mentioned earlier, people are just piled on top of each other during the time. In our world, obviously, there's been a couple historically, but where you want as much separation from people as possible. So you mentioned the term mass exodus. I've also heard panic moving, as a term that I've heard relatively recently. And that's, I think based on civil unrest and obviously the pandemic, people are looking more towards quality of life these days as opposed to necessarily convenience. The things that were important to people before, concerts, sporting events, those type of kind of instant gratification, entertainment vessels are not as important to people anymore. They don't want to go to those. Most of them are not even available. And that's one of the allures that those big cities often had. So what I'm predicting right now, and what a lot of people that I really subscribe to are predicting, is this mass exodus. You can see the data. You can see data in big cities. The amount of people moving into them is dwindling every day. There's going to be a major correction right now, I think, based on this in those big cities that have had overinflated senses of value right now. I think that urban real estate's in real trouble. I really do. And that does create kind of a vacuum. It's really good for my business, and I'll kind of do some tie downs here as the video goes. It's kind of the perfect storm for what we do right now, but it is happening.
Yeah, well, I can't disagree. Again, some of this stuff becomes so obvious, painfully obvious, in fact. I mean, this 2 weeks on the road that we spent, there's something called the reticulator activator. This was taught to me by Brian Buffini back 20 years ago. My first day in business, I went to one of his events, and I've never forgotten that education whereby, let's say that, the example he gave was if you go out and you buy, say, a Prius, suddenly you start to see how many people have Priuses. And that happened with us with this RVing, right? So now we're part of this RV lifestyle. We see them absolutely everywhere. I'll sit in the hot tub from one of our properties and just look out over the highway, and it's a constant stream of people towing a travel vehicle behind them, a recreational vehicle. And ultimately, it's impossible to deny the fact that they're having the best year they've ever had. So as I began digging in and doing some of the research on this, and RV park after RV park, we see the places absolutely packed. I called you 2 days ago, and what was that conversation for?
You wanted to invest in an RV park with me, and I'm very interested.
So I don't mean to spoil, right? I don't mean to spoil the answer to the pop quiz I did at the top of the episode there, but let's be honest. The category that you should be selecting there should be so painfully obvious. It's almost a rhetorical quiz. People are trying to get their money in or become acclimated now to a brand new lifestyle of having a little bit more geographical freedom or some breathing room, if you will. And again, I think that just bodes so well to the business model that you have. So tell us a little bit about that. If somebody hasn't seen you here on the channel before talking about little pink houses, how can that serve somebody towards developing maybe a life lived on their terms?
Yeah, so when I have these conversations with anyone, you or anyone I'm discussing our business model with, kind of a couple ways to look at it. So there's people on your channel looking at it from kind of a consumer standpoint, or an investor standpoint. Should I buy a home right now? Should I, buy a home in big cities? I think commercial real estate right now is going to be dead in big cities. It's so volatile for buy and holds in those big cities right now because no one knows really where it's going to turn. Our model is perfect for what's happening right now. Now, again, and I've said this in subsequent video or previous videos, we never hope for good things to happen to, or bad things to happen to good people. But if you can notice these trends and you can really prepare yourself to capitalize on it, there's a lot of money to be made out there. So with our partnerships, our affiliates across the country, we are soon to be a franchise model. This is a no money, no credit strategy to really control premium residential real estate. So our partners that are in all of these cities right now where these vacuums are being created, so even in big cities where people are maybe trying to get out, those homes are still going to be available. But what that's going to do is those sellers that are actively trying to sell their home or thinking about selling the home, they don't want to take that huge lump or that big loss on these properties. They've got the ability to sell their home through Little Pink Houses of America on a term sale without paying real estate commissions, without paying buyer closing costs. We can typically get them at the top of the market. So sellers in those markets are really going to like it. Buyers that maybe still want to move into those cities that otherwise weren't able to buy these houses have the ability to buy homes on terms through our program as well. Generally, self-employed is a huge demographic of buyers for us. With the trends that we're looking at today, people moving into more of these suburban areas, people that were never able to buy a home that are gravitating from these large cities because of the high price points, we give them the ability to buy a home this way through our lease purchase program. Additionally, from an investor standpoint, if our investors and our team are seeing these people gravitate into these areas, if you are a cash buyer investor, you're able to go out and get these at a lower cost basis, which I always recommend. I'd rather have $10,000, $100,000 houses than $1 million house in my buy and hold portfolio. So there's definitely some long-term wealth strategies out there right now. But what I love about our program, our strategy, our business model is that regardless of how volatile the market is, it can be hot, cold, anywhere in the middle, we're able to make money without that inherent capital risk. We're not laying cash on the table in order to secure these assets that ultimately we turn around and sell. We make a nice profit. Anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 is our average. Obviously, higher price points, we make more. So, people that really want to capitalize on these trends right now, but don't necessarily have, a bank full of money or access to a lot of capital, are able to really take advantage of this through our system with full support from corporate. So again, this is a business in a box. We anticipated 2020 being one of our best years ever, and all the years when, like a lot of people, civil unrest and the pandemic were not what we anticipated being the impetus for those. But here we sit right now, so people that have job uncertainty, people that are uncertain about the real estate market, this is an opportunity for them to follow a blueprint, have a full team of support behind them, and really strike while the iron's hot right now without having to lay all that cash on the table to secure the asset.
So how realistic, and I know the answer to this because we've had so many hundreds of people who have elected to participate in this business in a box, as you call it. How realistic is it for somebody to come in and replace a $5,000 up to, say, even a $30,000 income by putting in, say, 15 hours up to full-time hours weekly?
Yeah, it's actually very realistic, and we've got case study after case study. We actually just did an interview with one of your people, a lady named Michelle, who's just has been awesome. She's on her 31st day in, and she's doing this in an absolute part-time capacity. Her 31st day in, she actually had her first closing. So what the people that come to us, we're never saying to people, hey, go out there and burn the ship right now, put all your chips in on this, although some people do it. We say, what does success look like for you? How many deals do you have to do in a month's time in order to replace your income, or just even add to it? Not everyone's out there looking to quit their W-2. They just want a consistent source of additional income. For a lot of people, an extra $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month in a part-time capacity, that's a lot of money. And we make no bones about it.
Well, for everybody.
Yeah. And hopefully that didn't come off the wrong way, but success means something different to everyone. I talk to people all day that, they want to do 4 or 5 deals a month, which is going to require some additional manpower. But in a part-time capacity, a one-man show or a husband and wife team, if you will, they can very quickly do a deal or two a month, which at a $15,000 to $20,000 profit margin. You do 1 deal a month consistently, that's annualized over 6 figures. You do 2 deals a month consistently, that's annualized $250,000, and that's a large chunk of change.
How much is Michelle making on her first deal within 31 days?
Her first deal, she cleared about $11,000 or $12,000. So
that's incredible.
So
$11,000 or $12,000 in basically her first month. Let's call it first 60 days, just because obviously things take time to process through. But it's very difficult to find businesses that produce that quickly, because that's all profit for her. Now, obviously, she had to make an investment to become an affiliate. And like you said, this is a business in a box. I would most closely compare it to similar to a franchise. I know you guys have been working towards that direction, and the price tags are expected to go up substantially once you guys convert to a franchise model. I also happen to know that there is extreme scarcity when it comes to the geography within this business model. Tell us a little bit about that, because I'd say it's one of the biggest downsides to this business model, and one of the things I have the hardest time with as we continue to share this business model on the channel, because it creates extreme restriction. But it also just means that people who have urgency are the ones that are going to come out ahead. So tell me a little bit about the geographical restriction that you guys have.
Yeah, and real quick, just before we hopped on here, I have another example, and this was someone from your channel as well. If you recall, the Wittens, they're in Knoxville, Tennessee. They've got 4 pending closings already lined up for August. The wife, Jenny, does it in a part-time capacity. Bobby has a full-time job, 4 closings lined up, and I think they stand to make $50,000 or $60,000 in August, and that's her doing it really in just a part-time capacity. So the money's out there.
Man, I'm so happy to hear that. We just had them on the channel. So guys, we'll link that in the description below. You can hear their firsthand perspective of this experience working with Pink. Again, I mean, you don't have to take it from me. I'm not working with Pink. All I know is Michael on a friendship as well professional level, but I'm not integrated on a day-to-day in the trenches. I hear all the firsthand feedback from our audience, because people who are happy or people who are disappointed are going to obviously reach out. I've only had 2 conversations with people who expressed really only a minor level of disappointment at this point. And one of those really took complete ownership over that disappointment, they said, hey, this is because we just haven't been active like we should have been. As far as the support is concerned, it's been a unanimous positive testimony so far from everybody that we've spoken with. So you guys have been killing it, which is why you continue to be invited back. We don't allow just anybody on the channel. This is something that we heavily vet. I've got to hand it to Michael and Pink. These guys always follow through and deliver. So that's awesome. I'm so thrilled. So $50,000, $60,000 in August, the Wittens are about to make.
Already lined up. I've been through the vetting. Closings are being scheduled right now. So I love hearing those stories, and I appreciate the positive feedback you get from your folks. I mean, one of the things that, we really obviously prioritize, a lot of people are getting involved with us that either don't have a lot of just business experience in general, certainly not any real estate experience. So we've done, I feel, a really phenomenal job of building up that support and coaching and training around them to help them be successful, help them kind of break through that learning curve. And we're holding their hand every step of the way. So we have not had, and it doesn't sound like you have either, any really people that have kind of cried for lack of support. Sometimes we kind of go above and beyond and they want to kick us out of the nest kind of before we're ready to go. But that support component is critical. Circling back to your other question about that territory exclusivity and the scarcity on it, and that's by design. My least favorite part of my job responsibilities with the organization is I have to turn people down, and I do it almost daily, weekly at this point for certain. And those, people are excited. They're coming into this opportunity. And unfortunately, we don't want our people to cannibalize each other. So based on markets, we do have restrictions in there. It's going to be based on available inventory and based on population. There's another kind of model that people can compare us to, which is the kind of We Buy Ugly houses. And they've been around for a long time, home investors, but they don't do it the same way we do. They'll have a market that has 30 or 40 or 50 of their franchisees in there. And we think that that's kind of cannibalization. So every lead that we provide to corporate, which is one of the major functions that we do provide that avoids that cold calling effort for them, every single lead that comes out of our corporate call center is exclusive to one singular affiliate. So they could literally be next door to another one and they would not be bumping into each other. That was an executive decision that we made early on. For us, we want the longevity. We want people to stick around. We don't want attrition. And in order for that for us to prevent that attrition, everyone has to be able to stand alone successfully. So that's important for us to make those limitations. Unfortunately, we do have to turn people down. Again, the least favorite thing I have to do, but it is by design. It's part of our model, and that's not going to change. So when markets are closed, unfortunately, they are closed.
Makes sense. Well, guys, for more information, go ahead and email pink@vipfinancialeducation.com. I'll throw it in the description as well. That's pink like the color at vipfinancialeducation.com. These guys will be happy to answer your questions and have a consultation with you. No obligation, no high pressure sales. These guys are not there to twist your arm. If you're not willing to work, if you're not willing to put in what it takes to succeed, you're not a good fit and you will be DQ'd. It's the same process that we follow. And it's because of those types of similar business expectations and standards that we continue to invite these guys back. Also, I'll throw a link in the description for two of our most relevant videos to this topic that answer the FAQs to this. Make sure you watch those before you reach out. I guarantee you we've already answered these questions in previous videos. So if you do have questions, check out all the videos and then email Pink if you do have additional interest in possibly diversifying your income through this model. It is truly fascinating. I'm very excited about it. Full transparency, the reason I don't participate in this business model myself is because the business models we've created are seven-figure business streams. It would be a step backwards for us. If you're not currently earning $250,000, $500,000 and looking to scale a business to those levels, then this would be a really great step forward for you. So it really all just depends on where you're starting out as to whether or not this is going to be a good fit for you. But it is something that can be done from the comfort of your favorite couch in your most comfortable pair of sweatpants. And that's always what I'm looking for, is how can I create, income streams, extraordinary income streams with nothing more than an internet connection and a telephone. So hopefully that's something that interests you guys. Michael, I can't tell you how much we appreciate having you back on and sharing this great resource, as well as your thoughts about some of these trends and these topics. Because of your experience, you bring a lot to these conversations, and we're going to continue to have you back on. So thanks so much. Guys, be on the lookout for an update from one of our audience members on their success in this business. We continue to do kind of a 1-2 on this. We like to talk about the model, and then show you someone who is involved so that they can offer their perspective about it. And we'll do that on a follow-up video. Thank you so much for your time and tuning into today's episode. Michael, appreciate you being here, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, brother.
All right. Bye.